Whilst Ukraine is far away from us, we are following the crisis with grave concern. Its economic effects can already be felt here, for example, in rising electricity and petrol prices. But these are not the principal reason the situation in Ukraine is important to us. The events in Ukraine go to the heart of the fundamental norms of international law and the UN Charter that prohibit the use of force and acts of aggression against another sovereign state. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a clear and gross violation of the international norms and a completely unacceptable precedent. This is an existential issue for us. Ukraine is much smaller than Russia, but it is much bigger than Singapore. A world order based on might is right, or where the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. Such a world order would be profoundly inimical to the security and survival of small states. We cannot accept one country attacking another without justification, arguing that its independence was the result of, quote, historical errors and crazy decisions, unquote. Such a rationale would go against the internationally recognized legitimacy and the territorial integrity of many countries, including Singapore. Following our first travel advisory, 7 Singaporeans left Ukraine by commercial options before the conflict erupted. Since the launch of the Russian invasion, another 3 Singaporeans have left Ukraine and made their way across the border into Poland. We are still in touch with 8 Singaporeans currently in Ukraine who are spread out across several cities. And we're aware of at least one other person whom we're still trying to contact. Singaporean safety remains our priority concern. And MFA has been in contact with them, and we will assist them wherever and however possible. We also call for safe and unhindered access for humanitarian assistance to Ukraine and all those in need. Singapore is doing our part. The Singapore Red Cross has pledged a contribution of US $100,000 to support communities affected by the current crisis in cooperation with the Ukrainian Red Cross Society and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. This will provide essential relief supplies such as hygiene kits, family kits, and household kits for the vulnerable who have been displaced by the conflict. In addition, the Singapore Red Cross has launched a public fundraising appeal to support the impending massive humanitarian operations that will be needed. The Singapore government will also contribute US $100,000 to this humanitarian operation through the Singapore Red Cross. We continue to value our good relations with Russia and the Russian people. However, we cannot accept such violations of sovereignty and territorial integrity of another sovereign state. We will continue to work with our ASEAN and international partners to take a strong stance against the invasion of Ukraine and to end further violence and bloodshed and to de-escalate tensions.
The sanctions being imposed on Russia by various countries and the disruption to supplies, global prices of energy and other products are set to rise in the coming weeks. Earlier today, Minister Vivian announced that we will act in concert with like-minded countries to impose appropriate sanctions and restrictions on Russia. These measures will certainly come at a cost to us too, but I hope Singaporeans will understand why we need to make a clear stand, even if there is a price to pay. One key area we will be significantly impacted by the conflict in Ukraine is energy cost, as we import most of our energy needs. We have already seen in recent months a spike in the global prices of oil and natural gas, which Russia is a major exporter of. Motorists must therefore expect pump prices for petrol and diesel here to rise in time. Electricity rates for both businesses and households will also increase in tandem with escalating global energy costs. These will undoubtedly impact Singaporeans and further raise the cost of living here. The crisis will also further strain global supply chains, as Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of commodities such as wheat and metals like nickel and palladium. Supply disruptions for these commodities will raise the prices of goods that use these commodities as intermediate input. We must also be prepared for the follow-on impact on trade and investment flows. A protracted conflict will affect business confidence and weigh on global economies and impact the recovery from the pandemic. The government understands the strains that businesses and households are under and will do our best to help them. We have put in place a multi-pronged strategy to do so.
The Workers' Party notes the broad thrust of the budget and supports the call for greater fairness, sustainability, and a more inclusive society, a philosophy that comes with much promise for the future. However, the Workers' Party will object to the budget as we disagree with the decision to raise the GST. While the GST hike was anticipated, it comes at a difficult time for our people. Inflation is on the upswing and prices are high. Supply chain disruptions are having an outsized impact on people's purses. There's real concern on the ground that the announcement to raise the GST will lead to price rises across the board. The Workers' Party's position is that the government need not raise the GST. There are other options for raising revenue.
The point I am making here, and the point behind this speech, is for us in Parliament to show the world that in the middle of this pandemic, we can even sort out the succession plan. The point I'm making is that we have solid leadership now, but we must, with utmost imperative, line up the future PM and his or her deputies so that they get the longest runway possible before taking over the controls in the cockpit. I have Singapore at heart. My humble message to the 4G is this: please apply your minds to succession planning and articulate swiftly your thinking and choice as regards leadership to Singaporeans. They deserve nothing less.